Inclusion Alliance, NIA. We're happy that we're launching this with our new title, and it's shorter, easier to say, and we think it really gets to the point. So one more shout out to the group last meeting that brainstormed this after it was suggested by the police chief. So thank you everyone for that. Steve can't be here tonight, but we brainstormed a couple of things that we hope we accomplish tonight, marching on, and we have Amy taking notes tonight in place of Carol, so the group will hear or be able to read back notes from Amy so that they'll kind of know what we talked about tonight and we can keep things moving forward. One thing I went ahead and did, but I thought we needed to brainstorm and talk about it, and it might be something we'll have to do by an email consensus sometime in the next week or so. I had Wendy go ahead and put on the town calendar the meetings for the fourth Wednesday for April, May, and June. Okay, so we could kind of keep that in mind and hopefully have people start making this a habit. But with the caveat, I told her that we hadn't really talked about when would our next meeting be, how frequently would the group meet, and with the idea in the back of my head, not knowing exactly what the pace of our work is, but did we want to say up front that we didn't want to meet in, say, July and August? It's not unheard of. A lot of groups don't. Town council, I believe, only has one in the summertime. I'm not sure of their exact
They have two
schedule.
meetings. They have one in the middle of July and then one at the end of August. So
Okay, so they skip the 2 month, twice a month, and they'll have,
Yeah.
they pace out the summertime.
Yeah.
So I didn't want people to be offended that I went ahead and said, sure, April, May, and June, without us really talking about it. At the same time, I thought that we might have things that we wanted to kind of fast track with information from the school district and information that Stacy might be able to share with us, and talk a little bit about guest speakers, and also Steve, who's not here tonight, could have some ideas about things with the audit for the town from a professional group that can do that. And then a miniature thing with department heads to maybe say, well, what has your group already done, or what kind of training have you already done, so we can have some information for either the audit person or for us just to know and have on hand. So those are some things in the works. So scheduling future meetings, okay? Sticking with the fourth Wednesday, like we, fourth Wednesday, like we are. I'm picturing the calendar. This is the third Wednesday.
Yeah.
I lied. I take that back, retract that. Rosemary Woods, please erase that part of the tape. June, July, and August. So we're listed for April, May, and June. Do we in fact want to keep April? I would say so.
So this is actually the fourth Wednesday because the first was on a Wednesday.
The first was a good
so
one.
March is just a very long month.
Right. So we are the fourth one.
This is the fourth one.
Yeah, okay. So do we want to meet, in fact, the 4th in April, the 4th in May, and the 4th in June? It keeps us apace, but it might be, we might want to wait on June and just say we know we want April and May. That gives us some traction to work still on a mission statement that was our homework from before, gives us some time to work with the school, and it gives us some time to get some visibility effects going in town, if that feels comfortable to people. Would it fit your calendar? Are you year-round, or?
I am year-round, but
Okay.
that last week in April, I believe, is
Vacation
our April
week?
vacation, so I don't know if there
Yeah,
are
that's
parents.
a good point.
Well, I will be gone.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll be here, but
you'll be here?
I
yeah,
bet a lot of people.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's a tenuous time.
Well, why don't we go ahead then, and I think it's safe to say not do April?
Yeah,
I mean, Annette's probably not gonna, I don't know what you're gonna tell us about tonight, but it's probably a
Yeah.
moot point. If something is not done before
Yeah.
that, it's fine to have it done by the fourth Wednesday
Yeah.
in May. So, with a consensus here, I can also send out an email that says we chat, and could we skip April owing to the fact it's vacation week?
yeah.
So let's keep May, and we can talk in the meantime about if we want June, or what would a summer schedule look like. Is that believable, Amy?
Yeah, so May, the fourth Wednesday would be, I think, the 24th.
Okay. And I can put out in an email a general comment and have people respond back about opinions about summertime, or if May 24th will work, and what might June look like. Believable?
Yep.
That was kind of a roundabout way to go about it, but as long as you've captured that for
Yeah.
minutes and for
So
the
we'll
people.
check we'll just double check with everybody for May and double check with everybody for June.
Correct. That's a nice way to summarize it. Thank you. And I should point out, if anybody's watching or for the record, that the people who are not here tonight did RSVP back and say what they were doing and why they weren't here tonight. So I appreciated hearing that back. So next, I thought we could hear from Patty as the Curriculum Instruction and Assessment. They call you Curriculum Coordinator?
Yeah, correct, yeah, that's fine.
Okay. The Curriculum Coordinator, you might recall that we talked last meeting about some ways, and we heard some ways that the school could be involved, and we're hoping that you
Yeah.
have something to report back to
Yes.
us now.
Yeah,
What you got,
I do.
Patty?
So thanks for having me here tonight.
Sure.
So I know the last time I was here, you all agreed upon your name, which is wonderful, and then to involve our students to create a logo to represent the name. So I met with Annette Blake, who's one of our art teachers at the high school, and she's really excited. She's also the Unified Arts department head as well, and she's really excited to partner and to have our students involved with this. So she had so many questions that I thought, oh my gosh, I have no idea. So her first question was, do they want lots of colors, one color, two colors? I thought, oh, we didn't even talk about that. And she said, do you think the logo, is it for stationery? Is it for t-shirts? Is it large? So and again, of course, she's thinking in terms of an art teacher and with students that the kids are going to ask these questions.
Yeah.
And so I thought, you know what? I love these questions. Let me bring them back to get more information. And then I told them that I recalled from our last meeting that you wanted to write your mission statement. And she said she thought it would be really helpful if once the mission statement has been written, to share that with her, because that's going to help the students really create
What is
a
it?
vision, and to put it all together, because I think they're going to struggle a little bit with just the Newmarket Inclusive Alliance. So, so I said, I think I heard t-shirts, but I think it's probably a logo for like a stationery or an email signature or something like that. So
I think I can answer a couple
Okay,
of those
great.
questions. As far as colors go, it's really interesting nowadays that for things like using Vistaprint or our own printers, colors don't matter the way they used to.
okay.
On the other hand, to have a file that doesn't have more than 2 or 3 colors is also really easy,
Okay,
sending things
so
out
maybe
to get printed
2
if
to
we
3
did.
colors, okay.
Yeah, that would be my first
Okay.
thought. My second thought is, where would we use this? Well, I know email signatures would be one. Steve is trying to do a lot, quite successfully, with having Town and Newmarket on everything that goes out, and then a subset of that being if people had their own logos or their own, if groups or organizations had their own to add to that. So it would be potentially on stationery. We hadn't talked about swag, t-shirts, tote bags, whatever. We hadn't talked about that yet. But I would think that with a certain type of, I want to say computer program, the art can be hand-drawn, the art can be whatever it is, but you can usually say these measurements scale to
Yeah.
this type of a ratio. So she'd
And
probably
she has
know
all that
Yeah, she would know all that.
information.
So
yeah,
tell her we're
possibly.
all of the above and just scale it for, yeah, and what do people use, what's handy? We might think, oh golly, water bottles. We might think, are we going to be at an event and want to be able to sell things or hand out things or have things or give recognition items? That could be interesting. Just racking my brain, where would we be, what would we be doing with these things besides just the flat on paper or like stationery? What do you think about that, Amy? You've got a lot of experience in branding and marketing and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it depends, like, you could even have it if you have a sign.
Yeah.
If we were at any events or anything like that, or.
Yeah, some kind of a nice banner on borrowing one of those pop-up tent things to have a display. That kind of visibility is one of our items here. Yeah, stickers are a good one.
Pins
Stickers.
or whatever, even like pins or, okay. Sure.
Pins would probably be the words and the tagline more than the visual, I would
Okay.
think. Just because of
Sure.
unless it's like a first grade pencil, like a tree stump, it has more.
I meant
space.
like a pin you
Oh,
you
pin!
can wear. Yeah, like a pin.
Oh,
you can wear.
nice, yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be a nice visual.
Or you could put it on a lanyard or,
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it kind of helps her to know, like, yeah,
Sure.
everything.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, everything.
Everything. But it will help the art students to imagine, like, okay, it's limited in colors,
Yeah, I like the 2 to 3.
just for the simplistic thing.
And then, you know, perhaps if it would be okay, Annette would love to come maybe with some students.
Oh, yeah.
Or present their designs.
Oh, that'd
and,
be so special.
Okay,
So that also fits in the curriculum with public speaking as part
Okay.
of one of the Common Core goals, so.
okay, yeah.
Having that would be good.
okay.
Now, you did mention the mission statement.
Mm-hmm.
My response to that is, these kids are soon enough going to have April vacation and be kind of getting on the downside of
Mm-hmm.
things, maybe. Jumping ahead here a little bit, and not to commandeer the conversation, but we did have from Carol a suggestion about the mission statement. Carol, and I gave you this paper with my handwriting at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Carol cited this part at the top.
Have that.
Oh, sorry, ever so sorry. Here. I should fold it to a paper airplane for you. Carol cited this little part that came directly from the email that Steve crafted when he first put out the bulletin saying that this committee was forming. So it might be interesting just to say, here you go, Annette, this is the overarching mission, the
Okay.
goal of the committee, without it being the mission statement.
Got it.
Just because,
Okay.
for instance, tonight, what are we doing about the mission statement?
And you don't have all
Well,
your.
precious little,
appropriate
and the
stuff.
night that we did it, turns out, won't be April, so that gets us to May, and that's
Okay.
way too late for
Sure.
Annette.
Can
But
I get a
think-
copy of
Yeah,
that when you have a
sorry, yeah, I
moment?
should have
That's-
handed out
that's
one to
okay.
everybody, so, that's truly directly from the document that Steve sent out.
thank
And
you.
you have one for the police chief, too. Steve sent that out, which
Okay.
describes who we are and what we're doing. Here's all of it. So if you could just explain to her a little bit about that timeline.
Sure.
And this is the overarching essence of what the committee is doing or has done,
Okay.
should be doing. Kind of narrows the scope of it a little bit. On the paper you just got, my handwriting is at the bottom because Carol sent this, lifted this from Steve's initial charge about the group. And then she also said, this is a website to look at that could be very helpful when we really get to writing the mission statement, which is radicalunityteam, written as one word, .com. I only had moments to look it up today, and it's a group, I want to say out of Somersworth or Dover. Are you familiar with this group at all, Radical Unity Team?
No.
Okay. Anyway, it's formed to do this kind of thing that we're setting out to do. And I just looked at the website ever so briefly, and it looked constructive and helpful. So that might be something she could have a couple of students maybe look at and get some more ideas, because it looked quite aligned to what we're busy trying to do and accomplish here.
And that was from Dover? Is that-
I don't quote me, but it was wicked nearby. So it really seemed like it could be pertinent to us. It wasn't like from, I don't know, Philadelphia that we would, or Manchester that would have many, many active subgroups or sub representations from different cultures and societies. So it's nearby us, but don't quote me about where. I just remember looking it up and saying like, oh yeah, I can imagine that's relative. If you see the address of it, if that's what you're looking at, go ahead and tell us, Chief.
What's the name again?
All one word, radicalunityteam.com.
Okay.
That was just something she found quickly. I'm sorry, Carol is the person that sits way over there, normally sits there.
She's on our committee.
She's on the committee, and I
So
want to
sorry,
say her
Carol.
last name is Gulla, G-U-L-L-A. I'm pretty sure, I don't know if it's a soft G or a hard G, but I'm pretty sure it's Gulla.
So this is,
So sorry.
we're gonna use this mission statement?
No, we're not using it. It's just she thought if we were all talking about it tonight,
I see.
this was a great springboard to remember, to get back to reminding ourselves what was the thought process when Steve proposed having this committee and what the town council approved for the
Right.
committee to have as a crux of kind of what we're doing. We can diverge from it all we want, but it's really the basis of, to remind ourselves some of the other facets about inclusion.
Yeah.
You get anything?
No, I'm getting
Yeah.
locked out of the Wi-Fi. so-
Oh, I'm in
Oh.
the Wi-Fi. Radical Unity Company Insights Text. Let me try this again. Let's try.
So it's not something we really have to talk in depth about now, but just for, I guess I'll ask Steve how much stuff
can we be doing in emails and what's transpiring in emails. But I would suspect we could put out a question that said, if you find mission statement things, or if you're in another group or organization that has one, send it in to Steve, and then he can disseminate it, so we'll have more to work from.
I guess I'm asking, what is the process? Like, are we writing this in a meeting? Like,
Yeah,
together? Are
usually
we,
do it in
okay.
the public eye, so, but I have a question, so.
Sure.
This seems like a pretty good mission statement.
I thought so.
Yeah, so I'm wondering, do we need more, or is it something that we can propose that, yes, we want to go with this?
I'm going to
just
speak
not
of
sure
two
how to
minds.
ask.
My half of my brain says, oh my gosh, why would we do any more than this? The other half says, well, somebody else who's not here might say like, oh, you know what? How about if we did it like this and took out this one, or made these three compacted and made it like 3 bullets or something? But I think
Yeah.
this, because it's what the town council approved, is really
Yeah,
a great
I
thing to
think
stick
this
with.
one.
first
Yeah.
page.
And I also think it kind of matches the tone and
I don't
temper of
have the
other
first
documents
page,
in
so.
town.
Yes, I
I mean,
agree.
we could get all kind of groovy, like Apple, think different, like
Same
maybe
thing.
not.
be
It is the
nice,
same.
or whatever
Okay,
else, you
okay.
know, but I
So I
think it would
think
be
it's
nice to
this.
keep
It
it,
says And I don't
because
know
it
if
is
it
radically
includes
different.
this
We
as
want to
part
make
of the
sure people
version, but-
understand, we're not trying to be out there and different, but including, without being alienating in language or reading ability or whatever
Right.
else it is, so.
Well, I wonder then, since we have so many folks missing tonight, I wonder if we should put this on there, as this is what we have now.
Mhm.
Bring your
Mhm.
ideas, if you have anything additional, we can either decide to keep this or add
Mhm.
to it, or
Yeah, maybe,
change it at the
maybe
next
we
one.
can put
Use
this
it
out
as
there and
the-
say, if you see something you like, let us know. If you see something you want to change, let us know
Yeah.
that too, or be prepared to speak to it, you know?
Right.
I like that idea, it puts it on
Yeah.
fast forward. I was
Yeah.
trying to be very like, if you find one somewhere else you like, but I think that derails
Start
us
with
from
this.
this group right here saying we want to match kind of
Yeah.
the editorial stance of the town.
Yeah,
Okay.
And I think that'll help I don't know, I've had trouble kind of as a group writing something, but if we come prepared with a basis.
Yes.
And then people can add
add
to
it.
it and we can discuss it. It's just, I think it'll expedite that process.
Well, yeah, because everybody joined this committee for a reason, and I don't recall anybody saying, I just love correct use of semicolons. Nobody said that. A strength of mind, proper nouns, like, that never came up. So I think I like the idea of this is it until further notice, but I didn't want to sound too overwhelming about it, but I think it's the way to
yeah,
go.
open for feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's such a strong thing, and wherever he got it, it's crafted quite lovely, and that's why we're here, is because this was approved, so.
And with that said, I would like a chance to kind of reflect on it.
Yeah.
And like think about it a little bit more and come back to it, but
Yeah.
this is a really good place to begin.
Start.
And if this is where we go to stay, I think it's good.
Yeah.
okay, so I have basically that we have this current statement that we're gonna, provide to everybody. We'll ask them to be prepared at the next meeting to provide any changes or ideas that they want us
I think it's
to
inclusion.
talk about for this, and then we will decide the next meeting as far as what we want to do.
Yeah, we could say we hope to finalize at the next
Well, we
meeting.
hope to finalize, okay.
Right, so we're not picturing like the big, huge Post-it sticky things around the room, and we've all done that.
See me worried. I was like, can we talk
Okay,
about the process?
Yeah.
all right, thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
Make sure to get the notes correct.
And that's comfortable for you and you? Good. All right, so we can check in with Stacy now, because you had homework to talk about possible guests for future meetings. What can you share with us about that?
Unfortunately, I cannot share much. So I did reach out to the group. It is, I believe it's run by college students, and I'm not sure how many college students check their email. So I did not hear back from them, and I'm not taking that as like one and done. I will continue to try to reach out to them. I
I think it was
mentioned,
spring break for them.
yes, right, yeah. And I used to follow the group on Twitter. I no longer have Twitter, so there are some limitations. I can still find that on Twitter.
What is the name, what?
I know, and what is the name of it?
Because their UNH has a indigenous something or another.
That is it.
Oh,
The
okay.
Indigenous, I wrote it down last time before I came.
Oh, that's okay, no, I didn't want to, don't stress about it.
And so I was thinking that maybe because the website is so detailed and helpful, that we could use that as a guide, and then I will keep on working. I do have direct contact information with Denise and Paul Pulio, but I have some concerns about asking for free labor from people who, you know, were directly impacted by harm related to this issue. So I don't think we have a budget to like pay them for consulting.
Yeah, I don't think we do either. I think budget came up before and Steve was,
No budget.
his body language was kind of like,
It was very silent. So with that said, I will continue to try to reach out to them. I mean, I don't want to sound too presumptuous. I am happy to like try to come up with something and bring it back based off of what the website is. I don't know if I can do that, but and bring it back to the group in our May meeting.
sounds
But,
helpful.
like, and then we can try, and then hopefully I'll have somebody just to maybe even give feedback, even if I could just do that. Could I do that via email? Like if I'm emailing with
Yes.
the group?
We have to make super hardcore, no questions asked, that we can't make some kind of vote about something in email,
Yeah, we
because that
can't
had to
make
be in person, no decisions.
Okay.
Opinion type poll, what's the flavor, what's your not your stance even, but is this okay to move forward? That would be, we could say, sure, you know, we'd like you to do more research about the website. But on the other hand, this document that I put places, Steve sent this, and that's a sign in Dover. It was the land acknowledgement. This is done in the picture online in his email. This is really nice. It's a brass plaque, like we have downtown, a couple of places up by the mills and whatnot. So where did Dover get this particular money? I don't know, but it's really a handsome thing, let alone it's something that clearly Steve thought was beneficial for us to talk about under the land acknowledgement part of what we had quickly discussed at the last meeting. It states the facts, and then it goes on to have the QR code where you could get more information if you wanted deeper or more information about the land acknowledgement.
Yeah, and the only thing I would say is, once again, what I understood is like that's great, but we also want to look into the future too, and not just acknowledge the past. Because
Yeah.
they're still here, and like, it should be more of an action statement at the end. But even if it's just the land acknowledgement on the plaque, I think it's beautiful. It's the Indigenous New Hampshire Collaborative Collective.
Oh,
For some reason
collaborative, yeah.
this two C's at the end always mix.
Yeah, it's a cumbersome, yeah. We could have you consult with them to get a better name for that group. Yeah. Seems to be a new skill that you found.
I don't know about that.
So with that said, would you like that for me to try to like just come with something kind of like,
Well, like
Yes.
Carol did, yeah.
and then we can talk about it? Would
Yeah.
that be useful? Because like I said, I can follow kind of the guides that they have on the website, which may be harder to do in the meeting for people. to
Sounds
do.
helpful to me. Does that sound helpful, Amy?
Okay.
Again, it's like Carol sent this in good faith, like here's something to start talking
Right,
about.
exactly. I'm not I'm not an expert, and I'm not trying to sound like one.
I don't think we would take it that way. I think it'd be with
Just
great
want to
open
be
heart
clear.
that you saved everybody time, and then with understanding from, even though we've only met a couple of times, I think we're all very understanding of the common goals and the common viewpoints here, so. And I appreciated Steve sending this, because he was really, he's out straight, and that he would have time to think of his homework for here really meant a lot, so. And I'll make sure these handouts get to Wendy, in a packet to Wendy anyway. All right, we've kind of jumped ahead and heard from you, Patty. Is there anything else that you would like to say from having maybe talked back to Todd, or more from Annette, or anything else about the school district or the schools in this group?
I think that I remember you asking about, does the school do anything for June? You talked about
Yeah,
Pride
yeah.
Month. So I just asked Annette, being, Annette grew up in Newmark, went through the Newmarket schools, and I because she was a teacher for so long. So I asked her if there was ever a history or events, and she said there was, actually. Because June, the seniors graduate, within the first couple of
Oh,
weeks. Instead, they have a picnic, it sounds like, or that they've done in the past, or late May, and it's a school community event to recognize and celebrate everyone. I think it's the DEIJ, maybe, no, sorry, it's the LGBTQ plus club.
So
group
driven by a
that
student group,
organizes
it sounds
Yeah,
like.
yep, that organize it, yeah.
Nice. So maybe we could help with some kind of, or the town side could help with publicity or awareness or. And did
I
she?
had to ask Todd's permission, I didn't get a chance to talk to Todd.
Oh,
about
yeah,
it.
the Todd
So I
piece.
never like to make any, you just asked if the school did anything and.
Yeah,
and
no,
she-
that's good, and I'm sure he
um,
would, I've been with
yeah.
him at meetings for the Newmarket 300, and he's always
Yeah.
willing to say, this is what they've done, here's an idea I have, but
Yeah.
let's all
Yeah,
see, whatever.
like-
But the fact that they have done
Yeah.
something gives us a good feeling about moving forward and making, and you must know from having had kids go through, having served as you have. Yeah, so, I guess if you could go back and tell her that if there is some way that she can think of that this alliance could help with, or, that could, I don't know if I don't know if the logo could be done in time, but having like a reveal, since it's students would have done it, it could be fun to have it kind of ready then,
Oh, like
and
a
even if
little
it was the
reveal.
mock-up, be able, this is like, reveal it on a nice poster board format, so that the high school kids know that their work was really respected, and in honor of the June Pride Month and whatnot, I think that could be a really wonderful
Yeah, nice.
event at some level to
Inclusive
launch
event.
it, or
Okay.
to share it. So can you ask her if that timeline is
Absolutely.
pretty realistic, and
Yeah, if it's gonna happen this year.
if it's
there
gonna happen this
planning?
year? And if it's not gonna happen this year, perhaps we could still use it as a way to honor the student or students that work together on creating that logo. That could be really helpful, and I would like to think that whatever comes of it, the person or people who did it would be able to have it be like a portfolio kind of an item, or something that they themselves have a lot of pride about having done.
Yeah.
And I'm sure she's good at this, but maybe there's some student in the, do you say ELOs, Extended Learning Opportunity?
Yes, we do, yeah.
There could be some ELO person that we're not thinking of as far as
Yeah,
being
so
an
that's
artist.
Jamie Hayes, and he's our athletic director, and also
Yeah, the
he
ELO
is a
director.
portion of ELOs with Jody Callanan, our director of counseling.
Yeah,
Um,
so maybe see what Annette thinks about putting it out there too, and they might have some ideas, or they might think of some students that might like to collaborate or have some kind of a say in it, or. But I think it's another way for high school kids to get some kind of other kind of credit or recognition. Okay. Thank you, Patty, for
Sure.
doing that. And that would be an easy enough thing to send, like a summary of that conversation to Steve. It'd be perfectly allowed for you to say, at the meeting, we discussed blah, 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 and I asked so-and-so about da-da-da-da. It looks like the timeline for logo could be June or not June.
Okay, so ask Steve about that.
Well, you don't have to ask him, but when you go and talk to Annette and find out if they're doing a June thing,
Okay.
if they're doing a June thing, but in May, if it's realistic that this logo could be done, if the logo is done by then, could we include it, or would they like to include it as some kind of a part of their celebration to reveal
So does
it?
the town take on the fee associated with wherever this logo
Well, if it's in a
goes? Because there isn't
PD,
a budget. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
well, I'm torn because Steve said budget and he was panicking, but on the other hand, he was also here when we talked about getting a logo, so.
Yeah, okay.
I know when, for instance, the rec department logo thing goes on all the email, it's a PDF, and it just gets
Yeah,
imported
yeah.
and slapped into the email, so,
Right.
and that can work that way with stationery too.
Okay.
And I don't know about printing T-shirts or swag or
Yeah,
any of
okay.
that part where money could come from.
Okay.
There's a minimum amount of grant, I haven't really looked into grants, but I know there's a couple of organizations that are giving mini grants for awareness and that kind of thing nowadays, so it's not unrealistic that we couldn't tap into some of that. And speaking of visibility, I put on here that we wanted to consider the townwide newsletter, which I know Tim and people work really hard on, so it'd be really nice, I think, to have, and don't panic when I say this, but a photo, like a thumbnail photo and a brief bio for each member of this. I think it could be a nice awareness for the town to know we even have this group. So it could be a couple people at a time, or a week at a time, a person each week that's not featured, but in a casual, friendly way, saying, oh, this committee's formed, members include da-da-da, da-da-da, so-and-so and so-and-so, with a picture and a couple sentences bio. I think it'd be nice for every group in town to do that actually too, so people get a sense of, oh, I had no idea, oh yeah, I recognize him from my other group or whatever it is. So we can talk about that next time, about if people could send in a quick, it's a selfie on a cell phone is all it has to be, and then Tim can take it and make it just be probably black and white and a nice couple of sentences on the townwide newsletter. There's a couple of other events in town that we could maybe think of having some PR about. May 25th might be just too soon, but it's the Newmarket Business Association and Rec Connect social evening, where there's a few various awards given, and it's going to be at the Mill Space this year, so it might be interesting to say this group has a minute and a half to say, new club in town, this is what we do, this is what we're looking for. If people are interested or have ideas, please let us know. And then another one is the first Friday in August, the Backyard Bash. Could be interesting maybe to have things with the logo on them at that event. Last year was the first one, and there was about 1,400 people there. This year it could be bigger because there's a fireworks show culminating the event, a country western band and whatnot. So it could be interesting to have maybe even share a space. And I know that time is valuable for everybody, but even if we had like I call it science fair trifle, something like that could have pictures, mission statement, the logo, and depending on how far we are with this kind of a thing, that there. Meeting dates so that people knew, like, we're really welcoming you to come, here's our meeting dates.
A table?
Yeah, like a tabletop display, but, the cardboard stand-up thing that you probably have left over from 8th grade and whatnot.
Trifold?
Yeah, trifold.
Trifold.
So it's a low budget but effective way, and it could be really nice graphics, just because it's a trifold doesn't mean can't be really fetching. And it could be that we could just share that with somebody else, so we don't have to say like, oh, I don't want to have to sit there 4 hours, but we might be able to either take a teeny little shift or have that exhibit be with somebody else in town. I know that's still in the planning stages, is what organizations might want just displays.
Okay.
Something to think about. But that would kind of hinge on if I'm assuming that Annette comes up with a logo, but we've all been involved in school projects that were like, yeah, it'll be a poetry coffee house, and then the kids all decide, not so much. So I'm thinking something will come of this, though.
I do too.
Yeah. So photos and brief bio statement. I can have Steve send that request out in an email easily enough, so people could get that back in, and Tim could start working on the layout for those tabs on the newly designed townwide newsletter could be helpful. Any other ideas about publicity or visibility, or ways we can get some visibility and let people start knowing that this even exists? I think when we can say, oh, we have a guest coming, or if we had a guest coming to put out in townwide newsletter, like, oh, our next meeting has so-and-so coming to talk, that generates some interest. I know the Conservation Commission does that, and we tend to have a pretty good cadre of people that are just watching the YouTubes, the streaming of the meetings, to hear experts. A lot of them are from UNH Cooperative Extension, come and explain something to us. Do you have ideas about PR or visibility or other ways to let folks know this exists? And I just thought of another thing about the school. There was going to be a student, in Steve's initial idea, there were this many people and a student rep.
Oh,
So if you wanted to touch base with Todd, he might know the status of the student rep solicitation question. And it might need a second Now that there really is a committee, it might be more appealing to a student to say like, oh, okay, and that's that's when they meet, or I don't want to go to meetings, but I can certainly report back to the LGBTQT questioning group or whatever it's going to be. So see if he has any input or ideas about the student rep to the committee. Those were the main things that I had thought about we needed to kind of accomplish or work on tonight. I think Carol's idea about lifting the initial charge from Steve is really helpful, and that saves us a whole lot of time and energy. And I think Steve I took this as a real vote of confidence for the committee, that he sent this from whatever he was doing in Dover and saw it and thought about it, his role here. Anything else from either of you?
I certainly think that, the mission statement and figuring that out is a good thing, because it kind of gives us our purpose, like, where are we going from here
Yeah.
with this? Like, what is our purpose? Are we going to, just develop this group, and where does it go from there,
Yeah.
I think you spoke about action, like, what's our next thing? Like, are we
Yeah.
gonna, a lot of good ideas about getting, the group out there, just because I think it would be helpful to people to know that there is a group, and maybe they would feel they could be a part or be engaged. But I think, getting that mission statement and that stuff ready, because right now, what would we say to people, like, what are you doing? Well, we're still trying to figure that out, but I mean,
Yeah.
we've got a good start, but I certainly think it's important to have that and be able to explain to people what our purpose is and where we're going with it, I don't really have, other than the ideas you've talked about, I don't have any great ideas about publicity, other than to say that, the town newsletter and some of the other, maybe social media that we could share it with,
Yeah.
to let people know, but I don't think a tremendous amount of people know about it, so.
And I don't want to, and as you were speaking, I was thinking in terms of like, okay, here you are as a member of this group, but you're also effectively a department head. So even getting back and how can we really help all the department heads work in the HR arena that you work in, so that people would know Newmarket is supporting all the efforts that somebody might face to even want to go to HR with a situation, to human resources with a situation.
Right.
Hiring practices and those kind of things aren't for us to decide, but we're certainly here to support very open-minded, very inclusive hiring practices, for instance. So it's not something that we would sit here and say like, okay, why don't you have more people from Grand Cayman Island working here? Come on,
Right,
chief,
right.
like recruit somebody from there first. That's not our purpose, but to be able to say, all employees should know that there is a route to go, or new hires should know it's okay to say, I'm curious about this and such, or things that they're happy about or uncomfortable with. That's something that we're supposed to be supporting the municipal side
and
about.
I think having this group could be good for new employees to be able to say, oh, look, this town is believing in this,
Yeah,
this mission, and they're looking towards this. So that could be a good thing to share with people that are, thinking about coming here to work or live or what have you. So.
yeah, good point. So that tells me that we should get this information, this group exists, to realtors, and really think, like, what kind of list, who could help new people, live here or not, know that this group exists.
Right.
Because we used to say, like, oh, looking for a job, it's all about what's my commute, those kind of factors. Now people are really looking for flexibility and open-heartedness, and are there restaurants I can walk to, and the kind of things we're reassessing about what am I looking for in a workplace.
Yeah, and I think I've spoken to a couple, two different couples that talked about the community being welcome, and that was like their priority. So I think that in many ways this group is saying that, like, hey, here we are, we want to welcome everybody. So.
Yeah, that's a great viewpoint. So our visibility could really be something that we'd never know, but somebody could latch onto it because they saw the website has this force that it's working with. Or parents at the high school could then feel comfortable thinking, I'm not so worried about my kid's grade level because the whole community is supporting. It's not just a couple of parents that are very supportive. So I think it's very constructive. I like the spin on that. Thank you. It's tough because it's immeasurable, can't be measured. How do I say that correctly? Immeasurable means it's huge, but this means we'll never know if there was 1 or 200 people that were involved in it, but helping even one. And I think the more of visibility we can get, the more traction we get. And somebody's bound to give us another idea of who could be a guest speaker, or, we haven't talked about that yet, but we can brainstorm that at another time.
Is the town hosting any farmers markets or anything like that this summer?
To the
No,
best
really?
of my knowledge, not yet.
Okay.
They did in the past, up on Sunday mornings at the Stone Church. There's been a little bit,
Hosted by the church.
Yeah,
The
that
church
was the
did it.
church,
Coordinated by
you're
the
right.
church. And that wasn't really, I mean, it was a town event, but
Right.
not hosted by the town.
Right, okay,
Right.
yeah, maybe are there farmers markets in Newmarket that maybe I could reach out
I
to?
don't
Well-
know
Like,
if they're
cause
doing it this
I
year.
know.
haven't heard.
I was involved because I have flowers for
Oh,
sale.
yeah.
And it was the Stone Church, but it was really Jamie and Glenn.
Yeah.
So, the considerations are just so huge. It looks so easy, like, oh, they come, they put up their
Oh,
gosh,
yeah.
booth and whatever.
Yeah.
The work is huge.
Yeah.
The accessibility is huge. Where do you park your car? And you figure, it looks so easy when everything is done and you just get there and everybody's got their wonderful shopping baskets and canvas totes and whatnot, but most of the vendors have lugged up 900 pounds of stuff to their display booth. So it's gotta have like really easy parking, really easy loading on and off. Stone Church was great, sort of, but it was hard to have it was quite congested sometimes to pull up in there, unload your stuff, ditch the vehicle, and come back and make your booth nice or your display nice. So long story short, I haven't heard of any, and it's getting kind of late-ish to be
Yeah, okay.
thinking that they are. But it's not to say that we couldn't maybe do, well, what was your thought gonna be? If
I just would think that that's a good place for visibility,
Yeah.
you know, to have a table there once a month or something like that. If it was weekly one, I don't know.
The mill space has so many more events now. It could be interesting to
Yeah.
have some kind of table there because they have in there, when you walk in, there's on the right that table where sometimes you buy tickets or not. Then you walk in farther and on the left, there's that bar area that's on the diagonal, and they're very open-minded to the types of performances that they have there and whatnot. So it could be interesting to say, hey, can we just have a display there?
They do
See,
have
we
a-
need a Nets logo. We need those kids to get on this.
We do have a Keep Drag Legal event coming up.
Oh,
It'd be a really fun one, but I don't know, I don't wanna step on that, but I could ask.
yeah.
I don't know who puts it on. I don't think it's Newmarket local, but
But it's going to be at the mill
it's gonna be
space.
at the mill space.
Well, you could go, here's a little product placement. You could go to Johnny Boston's and ask him about it, since
Okay.
he's on their board.
Okay,
That would be for a place to check right away. I don't know what you do by day, but Mondays and Tuesdays, several people are in there painting and doing some reworking in the
Okay.
building. So dropping by there, it could be by guess and by gosh
Mm-hmm.
to go see. And one of the people on that board has recently been elected to something in Newmarket, so I can email her
Okay.
and ask her what she knows about
yeah,
it. How did you hear about it?
saw it on Facebook.
Oh, okay. All right, no, that's fine. Okay. Because that fits right in. Any other ideas? Like, I like that, in the frame of thinking about farmers markets and, I don't know, I think it's gonna fall into place once we have the logo. Because right now, and the same thing as you just said too, Chief, like people say, well, what is it? And well, inclusion,
Yeah.
and it's hard to like put it into a succinct way, but,
Yeah, and the logo and the mission statement, I think are the
Yes.
key things, right?
yeah. Terrific. Any other ideas here? But being enticing for people to choose to live here, work here would be huge. And it's the kind of thing, if you ever needed the services through human resources, I hope it works for you, and let's hope that we get to the place where that would never be a case and nobody ever would, but just knowing that it's here could be super helpful to somebody.
I agree. I mean, what we do is very hard to attract people now, so we have to have things that want people to come here and stay. I don't think Newmarket's ever going to be the place place where we wow people with huge sums of money. So we have to have creative ideas about getting people and making them feel welcome and part of something that keeps them here, as opposed to some of the other avenues that people draw
Yeah.
employment or citizens, so.
Well, I've told you this before, but I hope people read some of those, the monthly news reports to Steve that are now online, because I think reading the police reports actually are enticing. You have facts and details, but then also just the human interest stories and the concepts you put there about what policing is in Newmarket was certainly enticing, should be enticing to people. Anything else? This feels very meaty, actually, in spite of being, again, maybe not measurable, but I think we have a really good crux here of things to work with. And you're gonna be able to type that up, then it goes to Steve, in note form is fine, but then it goes to Steve, who can disseminate it.
Yep.
And I can send him an email that says, can you please do the following, or expect the following, and your notes will let him know that Patty's working with the school district, and we are on the road to a logo, and that we are on the road to a mission statement, and then we have the summary of some of the other things that people brought up.
Yes.
Anything else? These are kind of the things I hope to talk about. What do you?
Question, just so I can check the last of my notes.
Yeah, sure.
We have on the agenda that we were gonna review previous meeting minutes. Do we have previous meeting minutes, or should I put we'll review it?
Well, we'll review it next time, because when I wrote that, I didn't realize that there wasn't Carol.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I just wanna know.
And then there wasn't Wendy for a couple of days, so for all I knew, Carol did send them to Wendy, and Wendy didn't, or Wendy or Steve, and they didn't get them out to us, so.
Okay, that's fine,
Yeah,
no problem.
thank you.
So it's,
Yeah.
okay.
And I appreciate how conscientious you were thinking, like, well, the Pulios sometimes get stipends, and to say, come do something without a stipend can be something big. But moving forward these other ways and the websites and whatnot, we might work around that a little bit.
Yeah, and I mean, I know them, and they would do it. I just
Yeah.
don't want to ask them.
Oh, no, I
You know what I
understand.
mean?
Yep.
So,
I
I'm just
understand.
not willing to do that. Somebody else can.
No, that's fine.
Okay,
And the
thank
other
you.
side of it is, we do have at the Historical Society a couple of really interesting programs that they've done about some of the history of who were immigrant populations that came and then settled here and whatnot. So we could probably ask them to, if they wanted to do something in conjunction with us even, have a nighttime program that wasn't here and them just coming and talking, but a program like they had in the auditorium downstairs or at the Historical Society. It could be something. I think the more we can do.
It does say development of programs.
Yeah, yeah,
It's part of our mission statement.
yeah, for instance.
That's what that means, yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot of awareness there, and, yeah, I can take that on. I'll ask the Historical Society if they had some ideas or suggestions for visibility programs with a tie-in to the immigrant populations. Okay. So I think you're off the hook for homework. You still have a teeny bit of homework. And we'll expect that to flow through Steve. Okay,
Yeah, I just got to do that.
that's okay. Anything else? Thank you for
Thank
coming
you for
tonight.
doing that.
Yeah.
So just so I'm clear, we're not doing April, but we're doing May.
Not doing April because of April vacation week.
Okay.
And it's way more constructive to just say, here it is, always the fourth Wednesday, instead of find a different date in April.
Okay,
So no April and yes to May.
okay,
And in the meantime, we will have some kind of information coming back from Steve, a little bit more. And anything Annette has to share with Patty can go to Steve and can share with us about, could we do something if they're gonna have an event for Pride Month in June or even in May. And whatever she can come up with, we're more than grateful.
Okay.
I don't want her to feel stressed about it, but I think when she can feel that it's just something that would be so cool for a kid's portfolio, I think it's really fun and meaningful.
Thank you.
I use fun too often. I usually mean meaningful when I say fun, but then it's like, meaningful sounds so relevant and heavy, and it should stay open-hearted, I hope. Okay?
Okay, great.
So, do we have a
Everybody.
motion to
Nice to see you.
adjourn?
Oh, yeah. Second.
Okay, there we go.
All right, we're adjourned
Should I
at
turn off the,